Good morning, everyone. I'm Mohan, and in today's webinar, we'll be looking at how to write and manage test cases with Zoho QEngine. This webinar is a part of the Zoho QEngine 101 series. There will be a total of 5 webinars on this series. In today's session, we'll be starting off with understanding the evolution of software testing, with main focus being on understanding the difference between manual and automated testing. And then we'll be quickly looking at the journey of Zoho QEngine and all the features that Zoho QEngine has to offer. And then finally, we'll be looking at the features, which is the focus of today's webinar. We'll be looking at the features which will help with test creation and management. And once we are done with all of that, we'll be discussing 2 use case scenarios of Zoho QEngine, which will help us create test cases much faster. A few decades back, when software developers actually created a software, they would test it themselves. When they wrote the logic for the particular software, they would actually test the particular software over and over again till they felt that it was fine, and there was no dedicated testing that era. But as the number of users grew for the particular software, that's when dedicated testing came into picture. They realized that manual testing was needed to ensure that the software was rid of all the particular errors. So manual testing is nothing but ensuring that you take a particular piece of software and test all the features of that software manually, one after another, and check the entire workflow of that particular software, and then come up with a particular report which will be shared with the developer so that the developer can work on the fix. This was all fine when a couple of decades back, when the number of users for a particular software actually grew. So this is for the first time we saw that there are thousands and thousands of users and sometimes even millions of users on a particular website or a particular software. So in this scenario, manual testing was not enough to come up with fixes for the bugs real fast, and also to emulate the kind of load a particular software might face in a particular time period. So this is when test automation came into picture. So test automation, as I mentioned, a particular test case is created for the software, and the particular test case is run multiple times over and over again. And sometimes it even helps with emulating the total number of users, thousands of users, when they are concurrently using the software. So test automation actually has a lot of benefits over manual testing, with many of them, the important one being quick fixes for the bugs, and also ensuring that efficiency is achieved for testing. But you don't have to take our word for it. Manual testing has been replaced by test automation in over 51% of the software testing projects. So for test automation, you require a tool which can help you with building, managing, and executing test cases very efficiently. So a test automation tool is at the center of test automation. So with that in mind, let's rewind few years back. Zoho, as you know, is a SaaS company, and we provide world-class softwares. So Zoho realized that when we are creating our own software, it requires a dedicated testing tool. They were using multiple tools and they were testing them internally, but they realized that a dedicated testing tool would be really great, and that's how Zoho QEngine came into picture. And Zoho, we currently use QEngine for testing multiple products before they are actually made live. So these are the few numbers of Zoho QEngine. Zoho QEngine has been currently in action for more than 4 years, and currently more than 20 teams within Zoho and outside Zoho are using QEngine, and over 2 billion test executions have been done on Zoho QEngine, and every single day over 170,000 test runs are done using Zoho QEngine, which are pretty good numbers. So now let's quickly look at all the important features Zoho QEngine has to offer. And there are a lot of other features which we couldn't fit into this particular slide, but I'll quickly take you across the important features of Zoho QEngine. Zoho QEngine, as I mentioned, is a test automation tool with test automation at the center. And Zoho QEngine can help you test software and on web and mobile platforms, and also your API requests as well. So you can test on three platforms: web, mobile, and API. And for creating test cases, you can actually use no code, low code, or pro code in Zoho QEngine. And once your test cases are created, for running the test cases on multiple environments, you have the option to run them on local, cloud, or hybrid environments. And once you are running those particular environments, to make your test cases much better, we also support parallel testing, and we also have self-healing AI to ensure that your test cases are without any issues. And beyond that, of course, once your test cases are run, to ensure that you get a good view of and better results of if all the test case runs, we have the results dashboards where you have the results of the entire test runs within that particular project. And also to ensure that it's easier for you to switch between multiple platforms, our product has this single click platform switch option, which helps you switch between the test cases for the multiple platforms. And also to not leave anyone behind, we also support manual testing. There are other features as well, like tunnel feature, which helps you test behind firewalls, and then the repositories to store all the things related with test cases, and of course simulators and emulators for mobile testing. So any test software testing lifecycle goes through 6 different stages, and those are nothing but test creation, test management, test planning, test execution, reporting and analytics or test analysis, and finally collaboration within the team. So these are the different stages, and Zoho QEngine supports all of these stages of software testing lifecycle. But today in particular, we'll be focusing on test creation and test management. The other stages of the software testing lifecycle, we'll be looking at them in the subsequent webinars. So let's quickly look at test creation. For test creation within Zoho QEngine, you have the option to create test cases using no code, as I mentioned, no code test recorder, low code builder, or pro code test editor. And finally, of course, there is manual editor as well. And talking about the no code recorder actually helps you write test cases without any coding knowledge. Anyone, even without a coding knowledge, can actually create test cases by simply performing the actions that they want to be performed uh, inside a particular application, and all the user actions are recorded and they are converted into test cases. So that is our no code recorder. And talking about the low code builder actually helps you with dragging and dropping user actions onto the editor, and also rearranging the code blocks as you wish. And finally, the low code builder also ensures that you don't have to remember any syntax or anything. Within the fields, the user just has to enter values. And finally, the pro code editor is very simple, and it also gives once the option to write test cases from scratch. The language or the editor actually follows a syntax which is very close to Java and JavaScript. And also it features smart autocomplete features to ensure that you can create test cases much faster. And for test case management, Zoho QEngine features a unique feature which helps you create test cases for multiple platforms within a single file. Like, let's say there is a test case, you create a test case. Within that particular test case, with just a single click, you can actually switch between creating test cases for web, mobile, and API platforms, just like that. And all of this can be done, accessed within a single window. And of course, you have access to the variables and elements inside the test cases. So as I mentioned, you can actually create test cases for different platforms, and all of these test cases are cataloged inside test modules. We'll be looking at them in detail when we go to the demo part. So in today's session, as I mentioned for the demo, we'll be looking at two use case scenarios. In both of these use case scenarios, we'll be using a e-commerce website. So in this case, this is a website that we created using Zoho Commerce. This is a generic e-commerce website where they kind of sell watches. So you can say it's a pretty normal website. So now going back to the slide. So for creating a test case, so we keep talking about test case creation, creation. What is a test case? So test case is something which helps you perform the actions inside your particular application to test if all of the features are working fine. So for creating a test case, you need to understand what is the scenario I'm looking at. For it could be as simple as logging into the application, or it could be as simple as adding a product to the cart, or it could be the entire workflow. So understanding the scenario for which the test case is created is very, very important for test case creation. And once you identify the scenario, the very next step is to ensure that you come up with the proper title and the description for the test case. Because a test case is not something which is used just by you. The test case is used by the entire team. And if say someone else is new is coming into the team and is actually looking at the test case, just by looking at the title of the test case, they should be able to identify what the test case is all about or what it is going to test. And also, if the test case is supported with a very descriptive understanding of what the test case is all about, it will be very, very helpful. So, therefore, it is essential that a good description is accompanied with the title. And also, every test case has to aim to cover all of the edge cases and all of the bugs that might pop up when the particular software is used by the end user. So, the test case has to, apart from taking care of all of this, the test case also has to be created with reusability in mind. What I mean by that is, like, a particular test case for a feature will not be used just once. The particular feature can have integrations with other features, or it could be related to other softwares as well in the subsequent upgrades. So therefore, it is essential to create test case in such a way that a new test case can be created with the existing test case, or the new test case can be created by modifying the existing test case. So with that in mind, once a test case is created, we'll be looking at the other scenarios. So in today's session, we'll be looking at two use case scenarios. So let's quickly look at the first use case scenario. In case of the first use case scenario, what we'll be doing is we'll be accessing a web application. In this case, it is the website that I was talking about, which I showed. So we'll be accessing that application and then logging into that web application, which is the e-commerce site. And then we'll be adding a review for a particular product. And once we add the review for the particular product, we will verify if the review has been successfully posted. And then finally, we'll be logging out of the application. So this is the first use case scenario. And the second use case scenarios, we will be accessing the same application, but in this scenario, will not be logging in. We will be completing the entire purchase inside the website as a guest. So we'll be accessing the application, and we'll be clicking on a product and adding the product to the cart, and then we'll be checking if this is the product we want, and then we'll be checking out from the cart by adding all the details that is needed for checkout, and finally we'll be entering the payment details inside our website to finish the payment process. Once the payment process is completed and the product has been purchased successfully, all the details that the user, or in this case we entered during the checkout process, all of that will be captured inside CRM. So we'll be going into Zoho CRM and verifying if the data that has been captured inside, captured during the product payment process, is the same data which is captured in CRM as well. We'll be verifying if the data is accurate. So these are the two different use case scenarios we'll be looking at. The without wasting much time, let's look at our product. So as soon as you enter Zoho QEngine, this is the overview of all the testing projects that you are currently working on. So in this case, we'll be entering Zilker Watch. So I'm entering Zilker Watch. So as soon as you enter the particular uh, project that you're working on, you'll be invited with an overview dashboard. I'm zooming in so that it's easy for you to view. On the left hand side, so it is Zilker Watch. So we have named it as ZW. So the dashboard, overview dashboard, will give you an overall view of the entire project. Like it will talk about the project health, the number of speed runs, and the most frequently faced issues with the test cases, test plan runs, and everything. So just below that, you can see that there is the test cases tab. So in the test cases tab, if you click on it, so on the left hand side, what you see is the test model. So this is where all of the test cases will be placed. So for example, if I click on accounts, so this is a test module named accounts, and within that, there are multiple test cases for pertaining to that account. And as I mentioned, it is always a good habit to kind of name them appropriately. So in this case, it is the accounts feature we are talking about. So this will be the test models and then the test cases. And we'll be discussing a bit more about test cases and test case creation when we come back. So the next one we'll be looking at is test suite. So once a test case is created, all of the test cases will be available here. A test suite is nothing but a collection of test cases. The order in which you want them to be executed or run, they can be done here within the test suites. And once the test suite is done, we'll be looking at test plan. So test plan is where we'll be automating the test suites or the test cases as a whole, all of the test cases inside the test suite. So this is where we'll be automating, and also there is the option to check whether you want it to be parallel testing or you want it to be run one after another. So all that can be done here. And once all of the test cases are run, all the test runs and the results can be viewed here inside the results dashboard. And of course, users will give you all a view of all the users present inside the project and the user access control and everything else. And finally, within the settings, we have the repositories for variables, elements, files, and everything else. And then we, of course, have the agents where we have the local agent, as I was mentioning, local, and the agent group and everything. And finally, we have the tunnel feature, which I talked. So now let's quickly go back to the test cases because we are more interested in test case creation. So this is the flow. You'll be creating a test case, and then we'll be looking at whether placing them inside a test suite, and then finally all the test suites will be placed inside test plans, and then you'll be executing them, and you'll be looking at the results, and finally you'll be collaborating within the team to discuss the results and probably the next step forward. So now, within a particular test case, let's say I'm selecting a particular test case. So in this case, I am selecting sign. So within a particular test case, as you can see on the left-hand side, you have multiple actions that a user can simply just drag and drop into the editor. So for other, let's say in case of Selenium, you would actually require to install multiple drivers and everything to make a lot of features work. But in case of Zoho QEngine, all of this is available just like that, and you just have to drag and drop all of this to make them work. So on the left hand side, you have the user actions, and on towards your right, you have the no code recorder. As you can see, the record button. If I click on it, it will take me to the no code recorder. And on towards the right, I of course have the editor mode, which is the pro code editor, and the builder mode. This is the low code builder that I was talking about. And once these are the different ways you create the test cases, but what will be creating the test cases for? So you can create test cases for 3 different platforms. So we are currently looking at creating test cases for web platform. So if I quickly move on to Android, pay attention to the user actions. So I move on to Android or mobile testing. You see that the actions for Android also change. And similarly for iOS, the particular actions change. And of course, you can test the different components of your API request inside here. It does all the features that you require. Okay. Now, let's quickly create a test case. I'm zooming out. So as I mentioned already, before creating a test case, what is a scenario? So in this case, as I mentioned already, the scenario is I'll be logging into the application and changing a review or adding a review for a particular product. So I am adding a review. So as simple as that, I'm just going to call it write review. Pretty simple name and straightforward. I'm writing a review. So which module do I want this to be placed? I want this to be placed inside the Zilker Watches module. And of course, there's the description which I was talking about. So the description in this case, just gonna quickly copy the description. And there is this checkbox which says mark test case as a function. So when creating a test case, you of course have the option to mark that particular test case as a function. So what that does is like whenever a test case, let's say for example, signing is something which is used multiple times across multiple test cases, right? So what you would want to do is create that sign in as a function so that instead of writing the test case for that function, logging in function over and over again, you can create it as a function and you can call it, refer it inside the test cases whenever needed. So in this case, we are not marking it as we are not creating it as a function. So I'm just going to create a test case. So as soon as I enter, this is the test case, right? Review is created. So now I'm just gonna create a test case using the no code recorder. So the no code recorder is present here, as you can see. So I'm clicking on the no code recorder. I'm zooming in, clicking on the no code recorder. And as soon as I click on the no code recorder button, it gives me the option to enter a URL. So in this case, the URL is the website that I'm going to test. So I'm just going to quickly enter the URL of this website. And do you want to continue the recording the test case? Yes. As soon as I click on that, it takes me to a new tab where the website for which I enter the URL is open. So you can see that my cursor, as I move it around the multiple elements, the number of steps is increasing. As you can see here, the number of steps, I'll zoom it here, number of steps is increasing. All of my actions are being recorded as now. So I'll quickly go to the top and I'll click on the sign in button. I'm entering the username and I'm entering the password now. Enter the website. I'm scrolling down. Scrolling down. So this is the product I want to write the review for. I'm just going to click on that particular product. I'm scrolling down. So since I've already written a review, it says edit your review. So I'm just going to scroll down and click on edit your review. So I've already written a review. Excellent craftsmanship. Would definitely recommend to my family and friends. Just going to add something to it. Good job. Now I'll scroll down a bit and I'll click on the submit button. So as I see that the review has been changed, updated. So I'll scroll up. And finally click on the sign out button. Signed out, and I'm gonna stop the recording. Once I stop the recording, as you can see, all of the web elements and their respective locators which I encountered inside the website is available for me here. I can look at them, make changes to them if I want. If I want to change the name of the elements and the locators, I can do it here. So I'm just going to click on save. So let me zoom out quickly. Okay, so the test case is created. Just like that, a test case for the particular workflow that we were looking at is created easily. So now you might be wondering, so the test case is created, so what now? So this is the very first time you are creating the test case. So the very first time a test case is created for a particular scenario, it is very, very important that you take your time and add all of the business logic or ensure that the test case is running perfectly. So the very first time the test case is created, we might have to kind of look at making it better altogether. So how do I make it better? So in this case, I'm just going to add wait. So what do I mean by wait? So I enter the website, but I need time to ensure that all of the elements and the locators are loaded properly. So I'm just going to use the wait option. And I just want it to wait for maybe like, let's say 3 seconds. So as soon as I enter the URL and I've entered the URL, I want to wait for some time to ensure that all of the locators and everything are loaded properly. Okay, so that's the first thing. So since this is the very first time we are doing this, so I would ensure that I show you a couple of times to to kind of make you familiar with all the issues or a couple of issues that you might face. So I'll just save it. So once the test case is ready, you of course have the option to run it on an environment. So in this case, of course, you can use agent. Agent is nothing but your own system or your local network that you might have. But I choose to run it on Zoho Cloud. So inside Zoho Cloud, I of course have the option to choose a browser, its version, and the resolution and everything. There is a drop down menu here, Chrome and Firefox, and browser version, and everything is available there. So I'm okay with the environment. So I'm just gonna quickly click on run button. So I see that my test case is running. And one good thing with Zoho QEngine is that every time a test case is run, a screenshot log of the test case is captured. As you can see here, real time, a screenshot of everything that is happening in the test case is being captured. So right now it is in the login function. So it entered the URL, it logged in and everything, but it faced an issue somewhere here. with the preview part. So I'll just close this. You can quickly scroll down and see where it failed. So it failed on line number 27. So what is line number 27? So we can just quickly go there and rectify it. So let's understand what the error is. Notification message, although an element is present on the DOM, it is not visible. So it is not visible. So which means that we have to ensure that it is visible. So the button is there, but it's not clickable. What you could do in such a scenario is either you can add wait option, like where you can give it the option to wait, or you can give it the option to scroll to that particular place. So in this case, it is line number 27. So this is where the error is. So I'm just gonna say, I feel that this is a problem with wait. So let's try with wait, because the button wasn't visible. So I'll again give it 3 seconds. Okay, save. Let's run it again now. So the very first time you are creating a test case, it is very important that you are thorough with the test case and ensure that all of the issues you might face, you are addressing them right away. Because this is the test case we'll be using for automation. So we see that the test case is running fine and it failed. Again, same. So even though it paused, it failed. So which means that it is not the issue with loading. So we can actually go back here, change it, we'll add the scroll to. Again, there are two different options for scroll to. One is the simple one, scroll to the center of the page or left of the page or right of the page. And of course, there is the other one, which is scroll to, wherein it will scroll to a particular location of the page and the locator that we mentioned. So in this case, the locator is this one. So I'm just going to enter the locator here. And I want it to be at the center of the page. Similarly, I feel that there might be an issue, the same issue. I might face the same issue here. After entering the review or after entering the review for the product, clicking on the submit button, I feel that I might face the same issue. So I'm just going to make some changes there as well. So here as well, I'm just going to use the scroll to button. And I'm just going to quickly click on the submit button, which is there, and enter the locator for there. And of course, center of the page. And finally, I feel that I might face the same issue while signing out. So for signing out, again, I'll use scroll to, but this time I feel that since it is at the top of the page and it's easier to locate that particular button. So I'm just gonna click on scroll to bottom, top of the page. So I think I'm all good, but yeah, I of course wanna make changes to the review. So let's say I remove the good job part. Yeah, this should do. Just gonna save the test case. And I'm gonna run it again. So you don't have to worry about such scenarios all the time. It depends on the particular product that you are testing, and depends on how big or small that particular button is, and how easy it is for to uh, uh, locate the particular element and everything. So we see that it is running perfectly. It is, of course, we already knew that it will. Okay, we have faced an issue. and it says here, just quickly look at what the, okay, it says user limit reached, no issues. It's not a limitation of the product altogether, it is a limitation of the website that we were testing. So since we were testing over and over again, we might have gone a bit overboard. So what we'll do as of now is we'll just quickly change the username and password. We have a backup username and password. So we have a backup account. Just gonna change the username and password quickly. Save. Let's run the test case now. So the test case is running, and while it is running, there are sometimes you might face issues like this. Like for example, the particular website that we were testing has this limitation that you can only log in using a particular account like 20 times a day or something like that. So that was the issue we faced. That's a good learning. And we see that it's currently at 95%, which means that the new login that I entered has worked just fine. And also, good news is our entire test case has passed as of now without any hiccups whatsoever. So this is how you create a test case, and this is how you make the test case ready for automation. So now this particular test case can be run and rerun multiple times without any human intervention, but test automation we'll be looking at in the subsequent webinars. So you don't want to miss that. So now let's look at the second use case scenario. So for second use case scenario, we of course need to create a test case. So in this case, I'm just going to call it a test case. I want to check the entire workflow, right? So I'm just going to call it complete checkout process. Of course, I want to keep it inside Zilker Watch. And for the description, just going to quickly copy the description from here. And I'm creating a new test case. So I've created a new test case. But before we go into the test case and of course explore the product altogether, the web application that we were looking at, I quickly want to show you the CRM account that I was talking about. So we'll be entering everything, checkout and everything will be done here. But this is the CRM account we'll be getting the records. Like once the checkout process is complete, the data that we collect from the website will be added here. So this is where we'll be verifying. So just quickly wanted to show you this. Okay, now just like the previous time, I'm just gonna copy the URL, click on the record button, enter the URL. So this time I'm not gonna sign in or anything. So I'm just gonna scroll down. As you can see, it is being recorded. I see a particular product. I click on the particular product. I see that there is an add to cart button. So, but since it is an extensive workflow, I might want to have multiple checkpoints throughout the test cases, wherein like if I feel that a particular scenario hasn't been met or a particular button is misplaced or something like that, the test case can stop right there instead of running through entirely. So the first checkpoint is add to cart. I see that add to cart is an important feature in a particular uh, product page. So I'm just gonna keep that That's the first checkpoint. So I'm just going to assert text. I'm just going to check if the add to cart text is present in the particular page. So in this case, it's inside the button. So I'm clicking on assert text. And I'm adding the, so this is added. So as you can see, as I'm hovering, you might be wondering where the pop-up came from. You see this uh, settings button. I can actually click on it and multiple options will pop up here. Or there are shortcuts. So I've added the assert text button. So now I'm clicking on add to cart. I'm actually clicking on add to cart button. So I've done that. So I would want to check my cart if the product has been added to cart. I'm clicking on view cart. I see that my product is actually present and I'm gonna go to the checkout button. My product is added to the cart successfully. I'm going to the checkout button. So this time, as I mentioned already, I'm just gonna scroll down a bit. We are not gonna sign in. We are just gonna check out as guest. So in this case, I'm clicking on this is guest shopping. So I'm just gonna click on continue button. We'll quickly enter the details. So Chris M email, I'm just gonna call it Chris at silka.com. And if you do remember, this data was not present there at all. So the address, just gonna call it Zoho Estancia Park. Of course, Chennai is India. State is Tamil Nadu. And I'm just gonna enter the pin code and of course telephone number, random telephone number. Okay, so I'm happy with everything. So I'm just gonna click on the continue button. It of course has added all the data that I have entered. And then of course it's showing me standard shipping. I'm just gonna again click on continue. And everything seems fine. We are gonna look at payment. Now, before we proceed to payment, I wanna add another checkpoint. So assert text for again, make payment. I wanna check if make payment is available, button is available. So just gonna click, I've asserted that. I'm adding make payment. I'm clicking on make payment button now. So it takes me to the payment page. Here I'm entering the card details. I'm clicking on the pay button. Congratulations, your order has been confirmed. So this particular text, I can again use it as an assert text. So this shows me that my payment has been completed and my product has been successfully placed. The order has been successfully placed. So now I want to check if the data I entered is actually present inside the CRM. So what I'm going to do is enter the URL for CRM, CRM. Enter the URL that is being captured as well. I've entered CRM. So now, for good measure, I wanna wait some time because the record has to be captured. So I'm just gonna give it like 10 seconds of time. So added that and clicking on leads tab. Click on leads tab. My data isn't available yet, but it's okay. Just for good measure, let me click on the refresh button. Yes, so I see that my data is available. Chris Morgan, everything is available here. So I want to assert the email ID. So what I'm going to do is, so I click on the particular tab. Sorry, click somewhere out. Click on the particular tab, and this is the email ID that I want to assert. So I'm just going to click on this particular field for email ID. That's all. So that is also recorded. I'm just going to stop now. So my recording is completed and my test case is created. So now this was for creating our test case. But of course, there are multiple things which needed to be taken care of here. First thing, of course, we can add your particular scenario, let's say your workflow or payment workflow or the thing that you are going to be testing, the scenarios, it would require your business or logic will require a lot of additions to be made to the particular test case. I'll show you those additions. So in this particular case, I'm just going to add weight. As I mentioned, my website is loaded, but I want my element and everything to be added properly. So I've mentioned that, and I noticed that email ID and password is empty. So I'm just going to quickly call a variable. So accounts username and of course the password. So this was captured straight away because I'm using it's inside the same browser. But when the test case is being run, it would require username and password. So I'm just entering them. These are stored in the variable. So let's quickly understand the business logic that I was talking about. So business logic is that I entered an email ID here. So as you can see here, the email ID which I was mentioning. So the email ID is here. So I would like to capture the email ID which was entered in the email ID field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on get text. So get text, I'm calling it a variable. So I'm just going to quickly store the value which is inside that particular field, and I'm storing it inside a variable called email1. So the locator for locator, I'm just going to use this locator of that email ID field. So this is my email1. So let me quickly add a comment so that it's easier. Variable to store email ID from website. This was the first step. The second step is to verify that email ID that I actually got. So this is the second step. So again, just like that, the previous time I'm going to add get text. So I'm just going to call it email2. This is a new variable that I created. And this is the locator for that. Just entering the locator. So this is the second variable that I created. So again, for a good measure, I'm entering create a variable for the data inside CRM. So I've created two different variables now. So this is the email ID that I mentioned. I entered inside the website, and I'm checking if the same email ID is present inside the CRM. So now verifying if both the email IDs are the same. So now I'm entering the logic. So in this case, I'm just looking at if case. If email 1 is equal to email 2, I can enter if email 1 is equal to email 2, say success or something like that. But I want to capture an error. So in this case, I'm going to say if email 1 is actually not equal to email 2, if at all it is not equal, then throw an error. Throw an error that email IDs best match. So this error will be thrown. The email IDs do not match. So this is one such example. Now, since we are running late, I'll stop it here, but hope you can understand that this is how you'll be creating a test case. And for every test case that you're creating based on the scenario, you will be writing your business logic according to the scenario that you're working on.